Hello and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about a term you've probably heard thrown around a lot, intelligent automation. But, it's so much more than just a buzzword. We're going to break down what it really is and how it's basically creating a brand new kind of digital coworker. All right, let's dive right in. I want to start by asking you a question. Just think about this for a second. What if a computer could actually see the world, act on what it sees, and even think, pretty much like a person does? That's the core idea we're going to unpack today, because it's the perfect way to understand how all these different technologies actually fit together. So we're going to build our very own digital coworker right here, piece by piece. And to do that, we'll look at the 4 key human-like abilities that make it all possible: the eyes, the hands, the voice, and of course, the brain. Let's kick things off with the eyes and how a machine sees the world. First up, the eyes. For our digital coworker to be useful at all, it has to be able to see and make sense of its environment, right? This is all about giving the machine a sense of vision, letting it read documents, identify objects, and just generally understand the visual world around it. And this is where vision technologies come into play. It's a whole collection of tools that let a machine see by pulling data from images, videos, you name it. We're going to focus on a few key types here, starting with something pretty fundamental: how machines read text. So let's talk about how machines read. On one hand, you have OCR, which stands for optical character recognition. You can think of this as the basic version. It's fantastic for digitizing standard printed text from a scanned document. But if you throw messy handwriting or a complicated invoice at it, it really starts to struggle. And that's where ICR comes in. By adding machine learning to the mix, it can intelligently figure out complex documents, even handwriting. It's way more powerful, but as you can imagine, it's also a bit more expensive and needs a lot more data to learn from. Okay, so that's reading text. But what about identifying objects in a picture? Like a self-driving car needing to spot a stop sign. That's image and video analysis. This tech uses something called deep learning, which is a really cool method designed to basically mimic the neural networks in our own brains. But it's not always as smart as it looks. So take a look at this. To you and me, these are obviously blueberry muffins. It's an easy call. But for an AI, if it hasn't been trained on a wide enough variety of pictures, it might see something very different. Yup, an algorithm could easily mistake those muffins for chihuahuas. And this is a famous, real-world example. It just goes to show how simple visual similarities can totally fool a machine. It fires off just enough of its artificial neurons for it to say with complete confidence, "That's a dog." So our digital coworker can see now. That's a huge step. The next logical thing is to give it some hands, the ability to act on what it sees. This is what we call the execution capability, where the automation tools actually start to get the work done. One of the simplest ways to do this is with a smart workflow tool. It's perfect for automating a standardized process. You basically define the process, connect your different apps together, set the rules for how the data should move, and the tool manages the whole flow from one place. And if anything goes wrong, it just flags it for a human to take a look. But Smart Workflow is just one tool in the toolbox. You've also got low or no-code platforms, which let people build new applications really quickly without needing to be an expert programmer. And then you have RPA, Robotic Process Automation. Think of these as software bots you can train to click, type, and copy-paste just like a person, which lets them handle really complex, rule-based tasks across a bunch of different systems. The key is picking the right tool for the right job. Okay, so our digital coworker can see and it can act. Now it's time to give it a voice. This brings us to the language capability, and this is almost entirely powered by a field called natural language processing, or NLP. It's all about teaching computers to understand and use human language. And the most common example of this is, of course, the chatbot. We've all talked to them. The simpler ones are just based on rules. If you say X, it responds with Y. But the really amazing ones use deep learning to have conversations that feel much, much more human. Their main gig is to handle all those simple, high-volume questions to free up human customer service agents for the really tough problems. And here's a pretty wild detail about that. Because bots can answer instantly, it can feel a little off, a little inhuman. So, some companies have actually programmed a delay into their chatbots. This little pause makes it seem like a person is on the other end, thoughtfully typing out a reply, which makes the whole interaction feel more natural. It's a really subtle but powerful psychological trick. Now, beyond chatbots, another huge language technology is sentiment analysis.
This is how companies can keep tabs on their brand reputation across the entire internet. The software just scans thousands of online reviews, social media posts, you name it, and automatically figures out if the overall vibe is positive, negative, or neutral.
At its heart, it's really just about asking this one simple question over and over and over again across a massive amount of text. It's an incredibly useful way to get a quick pulse on what the public is thinking after, say, a new product launch or a big company announcement. So, we've given our digital coworker eyes, hands, and a voice. Now for the final and definitely the most complex piece of the puzzle, the brain. This is the thinking and learning capability, and it's all about processing massive amounts of data to find patterns and generate insights that a person might totally miss. And it all starts with the data itself. Big data management isn't just about having a place to store everything. It's the whole process of collecting, cleaning, and connecting information from all your different systems to get it ready for analysis. When you do this really well, you get what I like to call the 1 + 1 = 3 effect. By combining different data sets, like your sales data and your customer complaint data, you can uncover new insights that are way more valuable than either data set by itself. Suddenly, you can design products that people don't just buy, but that they're actually happy with long term. But there's a flip side to this. If your data is low quality, or you don't connect it properly, you get the 1 + 1 = 1 effect. You put in all this effort and you get nothing new. It's a huge reminder that the quality of your data matters just as much as the quantity. This brings us to the engine of the brain, machine learning. This is the technology that actually sifts through all that data you've prepared and finds the hidden patterns. It uses these really clever, self-adjusting algorithms to spot connections and trends that would be completely invisible to the human eye, which powers truly data-driven decisions. And finally, once the machine has found those incredible patterns, how do we make sense of them? Well, that's the job of data visualization. It's the last step in the process, turning all those complex findings and raw numbers into clear charts and dashboards. It's about painting a picture with the data so that everyone can understand the story and make the right call fast. So that brings us to the final, really big question. If we have these digital coworkers that can see and act and speak and think, what does that leave for us? Well, the future isn't about replacement. It's about partnership. The most successful businesses are going to be the ones that combine the incredible speed and insight from these tools with the nuance, creativity, and situational awareness that, for now, only people can bring to the table. And that, I think, is where we will really shine.